The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the QA-TV staff or board of directors. QA-TV, in compliance with FCC regulations, is prohibited from exercising control over the content of independent, member-produced public access programming.
Turn out the light. Believe. This is Greater Boston Paranormal.
Do you feel it? It went through like a path, like a wave.
Are you still here with us? What are your intentions?
Murder. Oh no!
Hey, so welcome back to Greater Boston Paranormal TV. I am Don DeCristofaro, and to my right is the ever-popular Pat Connors.
Hello.
Say hello. Well, he said hello. He beat me to that. Okay. All right, fine. So we got a pretty good show tonight. I guess I'm going to start off by saying this is something. How long have you and I been arguing about this?
Years.
I mean, I was going to say 10 years.
Eons.
I was going to say 10 years anyway. Pat and I have been arguing about this. It's popularly called the PGF, or the Patterson Gimlin film. And I could be wrong, but I'm going to say that it is the most viewed piece of non-pornographic amateur film, other than the Zapruder film. The most watched piece of amateur film ever seen.
That's what they say.
I bet you that's the case.
Yeah, that's what they say.
And you may be watching us going, yeah, sure, what the hell is he talking about? But I promise you that if you're if you're interested in the same kinds of things we are, then you've seen it, or you've at least seen frames from the Patterson Gimlin film. Okay. I'm just going to start by saying it was shot by two guys named Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin in Northern California in 1967, October of 1967. And we'll go into the film itself. Anything else you want to say before we get rocking and rolling?
Yeah, maybe it was filmed in October of '67. Maybe.
Well, I think what you mean is it was definitely filmed in October of 1967. Pat's question is, what did they film?
No, not really.
Oh, no.
There's some dispute of when it might have been filmed also. So, there's no dispute that, it was filmed and it was in '67, but the month is in dispute.
I wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah.
I wasn't even aware of that. Okay, so we'll say that most people feel October 20th, 1967
most people, but yes.
Is this going to be the whole thing? Is this going to be an hour of this stuff? It was. How about this? Was it filmed in Louisiana? I feel like I'm talking to one of the spirits on the ship. I'm going to say it was filmed in Louisiana. No REM pod's going to go off. And then I'm going to say Northern California and everything.
Northern California. I'm going to agree with you on that one.
Okay. So we're going to get it. We're going to get into the film. We're going to get there. We're going to show you a couple of different versions of the film. One is kind of, it's not the whole thing, but it's a bigger chunk of the original, and it's a brutal from a viewability or watchability standpoint. It's brutal. It's very shaky. It's very unfocused. But we wanted to show it to you anyway and give you a look at what most people saw initially, and then we have a shorter version of the part that really matters, and it's far clearer and stabilized and gives you a much better look at what the whole thing is really about, what the whole discussion is really about. But I thought before we do that, we'll talk about the guys a little bit.
Yeah, the main characters.
The main characters, and
sure.
And I mean, we'll start with Bob Gimlin, who, and when I say the guys, we're not going to go into their life stories because it's really not relevant. But Bob Gimlin, even though he was there, is really kind of a bit player in all this, right? I mean, he was there. He was with Roger Patterson.
Yeah.
They had known each other for quite some time. I think he was taken with Patterson's enthusiasm, although I don't think he believed in Bigfoot. To the best of my knowledge, he was not a believer.
Yeah, I think he was intrigued maybe in Patterson's stories.
Okay.
And maybe Patterson had some charisma, effect on him, and he knew how to tell a story.
Well, he was, and there's no, you're not going to deny that. Patterson was a charismatic guy who definitely knew how to tell a story. There's no question about that. And Gimlin, the one interesting thing about Gimlin is later on, and we'll get into it a little more, when Roger Patterson tried to make his what today would be called a mockumentary, right, about Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Bob Gimlin was the Indian guide.
He was. He got dressed up as
wig
an Indian.
and he was the Indian guide and that kind of mockumentary thing is really the crux of a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people's issues with the PGF in terms of, Hieronymus was in it and all this other stuff. So that's really where a lot of the problems with the film itself lie. So that's Bob Gimlin. The only other thing about Bob Gimlin I would like to say is that when Roger Patterson died of Hodgkin's lymphoma in 1972, I believe. 1972, I believe.
Right.
Roger Patterson told a number of people that his one true regret in life was that they hadn't shot the thing and brought it back rather than bring back film.
Right.
And Bob Gimlin concurred, said that he wished exactly the same thing in retrospect.
Yes.
Even though before they went, they had come to an agreement that unless their lives were in jeopardy, they had no intention of shooting this thing.
Yes.
That was the agreement they came to before they went anywhere. Right.
Right. Yeah. They didn't want to shoot it.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's move on now to Roger Patterson. The weak link in the PGF story. Roger Patterson, depending on who you ask, I see Roger Patterson as a hustler. He was a guy who decided very early in life that he was not going to live inside the lines, and he wanted to make a name for himself and make money, and he kept coming up with a lot of crazy ways to do it.
Yeah, he was like the Danny Partridge of that time. He always wanted to come up with new schemes to make money, right? I mean,
he did. He definitely did.
So,
no question about it. He, yep. And there is Roger Patterson. Thank you, Lou, for bringing us back on track because I'd forgotten. So one of his things, for instance, the one I like best was the wagons. At one time, Roger Patterson built a bunch of these miniature wagons, and he went out and bought, rented or leased a bunch of Angora goats, which are like these miniature goats. And he made a deal with this dude that owned a big meatpacking plant in Yakima, Washington, which was where he grew up, where he lived.
Right.
And this guy bought him a truck and a trailer to cart these miniature wagons and goats around, and he would set up in parking lots as like a traveling amusement ride for kids. That was one of his schemes. And it was one of those things where everybody that saw them said they were beautifully made, and the goats were a little aggressive, but he showed one of his many talents, ended up training the damn goats because they ended up being good with the kids. He tried to market to Disney at one time.
Oh, he was close.
And that thing ended up falling through. But that was kind of typical of the kind of stuff he did, right?
Yeah. He definitely had his schemes. I think he tried to build some kind of a hoop toy. I don't know if he ever built it, but yeah, he tried to patent some kind of a hoop toy at the time too.
Yeah, so he tried all kinds of things. And I think that, I'll tell you now that in my opinion, a lot of the people, I don't think Pat's one of them, but a lot of the people who think the PGF is fake have more issues with Roger Patterson than they do with the film. Right?
Yeah, if I was to guess, I would say, yeah, probably most people had an issue with him and what the things that he did.
Sure.
But yeah.
I mean, you know, a lot of people, one of the things that, there's a dude by the name of Greg Long, is that right?
Long.
Who I think is kind of a jackass myself, but, you know, he wrote a lot of things about Roger Patterson, and they were all the kinds of things that were, I guess, true, but, you know, truth has its levels. I guess nowadays spectrum is the word. And what I mean by that is, he said that, for example, Roger Patterson was a fugitive even when he shot the PGF, he was a fugitive. Well, you know, the truth is, he had rented the camera. The camera was due back on the 16th. And on the 17th, the guy that owned the camera reported to police that the camera had been stolen. And when he brought the camera, when he got back to, I think it was Eureka, California, when he brought the camera back and turned it back in, the whole thing was all straightened out. So was he wanted? Well, I suppose technically, but I'm not sure I would call him a wanted fugitive under those circumstances. Right?
Well, yeah, technically he was,
that's what I call a Greg Longism. You know, he went way out of his way to disparage Patterson at every opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that, but I mean, Patterson did have a lot of strikes against him, so yeah.
Go.
Yeah. So at the time, he had so many creditors after him for money that he borrowed or scammed from people. So he was in for a lot of money. He was given $700 towards making his movie that he never gave back.
This was the documentary, the mockumentary that we were talking about.
Yeah, I assume it was for that. But yeah, he was given $700 for that. I mean, which at the time is a lot of money. So between that and all the people that he scammed along the way, yeah, I mean, he didn't have a really good past. He was known around the area, his hometown, as a kind of a con artist. I'm surprised that actually anybody wanted to even deal with him, or maybe the people who dealt with him just didn't know his past. But yeah, he
was. What I have in my notes is that he was really bad with money.
That's a nice way of putting it.
He did. He owed a lot of people a lot of money. Even when he died, he died owing a lot of people a lot of money. That is a true statement. There's no question about that. There's no question about that. So, and I think in the interest of full disclosure, it's important to make that all clear. That he was a guy that was shady. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Like I said, and it's part of it is that I believe the film to be real. So maybe I'm a little easier on him than a lot of other people would be. But I honest to God, I see him as a guy that just wanted to find ways to make money that weren't the norm, and he got himself into predicaments financially that he couldn't get out of, and I guess maybe I'm just a little more forgiving of that than independently wealthy people such as yourself. So, are we ready to move on to the film itself?
Sure. Yeah, we could absolutely move on to it.
All right, good. So as we said, conventional wisdom says October 20th, 1967. Do you want to talk? I'm unaware. No. I mean, go ahead, because I'm unaware of anybody who disputes when it was shot. So
yeah, Bob Gimlin in the '90s, he actually gave an interview saying that he had shot the film during a Saturday, but it actually was filmed on a Friday. Correct? I mean, is that the?
You know what? I have the date, but I don't know what.
Yeah,
date
October 20th, 1967 was on a Friday, and he said he did it during Memorial Day weekend. So, I'm sorry, not Memorial Day weekend, but
Labor Day.
Labor Day weekend.
That's still pretty late for Labor Day.
But that was fully, a month before they said they had shot it. So yeah, he said it himself in an interview. Whether he meant to say it or not, who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I'm completely unaware of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that I tend to believe the October 20th date because a lot happened around. You know what I mean? Like they dealt with a lot of other people at that time. The date when they took the film. So here's what happened. They had done a bunch of research and they had gone to this spot where a lot of people had found tracks in the past and Patterson himself, I believe, had found tracks in the past, right?
Yeah. He claimed to.
Right. So that's where they were. It was in Willow Creek, I believe, California.
Willow Creek. Yes.
So,
correct.
And that's where they were when they shot this video. And there's no bones about the fact that they were there to look for Bigfoot. I mean, it's not like they were out camping and happened to trip over him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they were out there to look for Bigfoot. One thing about the tracks though was that he started looking in that area because it was told to him that they had found, I think it was Forest Service workers or guys working on the road, that there were tracks in the area, and one of the men had taken cast of tracks.
Yeah.
But later on, it was told by his family that he had faked the tracks.
Yeah, but I don't think it was I think there were a bunch of people who said that. I think there were a number of sightings in that area. You can disparage Patterson all you want, but he was one of them who said he got a glimpse of something there. He had tracks, and there were several other people who had tracks. Again, were they faked? And let me say this, because one of the criticisms of the film is how amazing that they were in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, to me, let's say for the sake of discussion, even if those tracks later turned out to be fake, they didn't know it at the time. So to say it was suspicious that they were in the right place, isn't that kind of like saying there's a fisherman and he knows this bend in the river where people are known to catch these huge trout. So he goes there and then being suspicious when he catches a huge trout?
Yeah, it's just that you'll see more trout than you will Bigfoot, right?
Okay. But that's not really the
comparatively.
But that's not really. But the point is,
I know what you're saying.
That's why he was there. It's not like he picked some area at random and oh my goodness, look at this dude running down the riverbed, right? I mean, that's why he was there, because there were a lot of people who had said that there had been sightings there and that there were tracks there. And again, if some of those tracks turned out to be fake, which millions and millions of them turn out to be, that has no effect on why he was there.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, he was, from what we know, he was definitely a Bigfoot enthusiast. He was out there to look for Bigfoot. Whether or not he had a second agenda, I don't know. But yeah.
Like what?
Faking a Bigfoot film.
Oh, that.
Oh, that little thing.
All right. So let's get back to So they take this film, right? And after that, another thing that a lot of people take issue with, I believe, is the timeline of what took place after that.
Right.
And there are a lot of questions, some of which, even as somebody who thinks the movie is real, some of them I question. But I guess a lot of them I kind of write off to how often do things happen that you don't really think much of at the time, and then later you find yourself saying, "Geez, what exactly did I?" So they took the film, right? Obviously they were like, "Wow." They went back to their campsite. They left their horses, got in their truck, and they went into town, to the town, I believe, of Willow Creek.
I think they actually stopped at some sort of store.
Right.
Yeah.
This guy, Al Hodgson,
Yeah.
had a store. And they went to this guy, Al Hodgson's store.
Right.
And the plan was to go from there. The plan was to go from there to Eureka.
Right.
So what they did was, the story is, they went to this store, this guy named Al Hodgson in Willow Creek. And at Al Hodgson's store, they called a guy by the name of Al Diatley, who is Roger Patterson's brother-in-law. I believe.
Correct. Yeah.
And told him, "We're going to send you this film, so be waiting for it. And when you get it, you need to go and get it developed ASAP." Right?
Yes, correct.
And then they went to Eureka.
Yeah, I mean the story that I heard. Yeah, they went to Eureka. From what I've heard, that Bob Hieronymus took it to Eureka, but
Okay, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
But in any event,
But they
my
did get it
understanding
there.
was they went to Eureka.
Yeah.
In any event, the film was shipped from Eureka. They had to go back to their campsite, and they stopped at a ranger station. And one of the funny things about the ranger station was that Al Hodgson was already
at
there.
the ranger station. I thought that was kind of weird.
When they got there, I thought that was a little crazy.
He's everywhere at once.
Yeah, apparently. Whether he wanted to go see for himself or what the deal was, it never really explained. It just said they were surprised to get there and that he was already there. So when they were at the ranger station, they made some calls. They called a couple of newspapers, I know. They called the curator, the curator of the Imperial Museum of British Columbia or something like that, and asked him to come down to California. And as you can imagine, he got a call in the middle of the night from some dude saying, "Hey, I'm in California, come down and see this film I just took of Bigfoot." He said, "Yeah, hold your breath, I'll be right down," and that was the end of that.
Yeah.
And then they went back to their campsite, packed up. Now, part of the issue is that, from what I understand, a lot of bad weather kicked in, a lot of rains, and
correct.
And a lot of the rain, in those kinds of environments, rain can really do a number. The trails, the riverbeds, all of a sudden aren't just riverbeds, but rivers anymore.
Right, it's just flowing mud. Yeah, it's just
So they had a lot of issues getting back down. In fact, one of the stories I read said that they borrowed.
Unauthorized.
You know what? They borrowed
borrowing.
a front-end loader.
Front-end loader.
Because their truck went off the road. And so they had a lot of problems getting back to either Eureka or Willow Creek. I'm not even sure.
Yeah, I think it was. I'm not sure. Yeah, it may have been Willow Creek.
I'm not sure.
But
it doesn't matter because once they got back there, the film was with Al Diatley, the next day or whatever, and things just kind of took on a life of their own from there.
Yeah.
Now, Al Diatley got the movie processed.
Yep.
One of the things that I call an inconvenient truth.
I like to hear it.
Is that my understanding is the film in the camera was Kodachrome 2 or something like that.
Kodachrome 2.
And that there were very few places on the West Coast that processed that kind of film.
Yes. Yep. At the time.
And that Al Diatley says he can't remember where he got it processed.
Correct.
And I have to admit that is strange. That's even hard to write off as one of those things that you don't think much of at the time, because this seems like something you would remember to me.
Yeah. Yeah. They got it processed and colorized, I believe, on that weekend. That's what I heard anyway.
Okay. I just heard processed, so.
And the thing was, at the time, these processing places that did process this, 16 millimeter footage, they weren't open on the weekends.
Right. That's one of the things.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of them. That there were very few places on the whole West Coast that processed this particular kind of Kodachrome film, and that none of those places were open on the weekend. So there is certainly a question about where Diatley got this film processed. Right. Certainly,
Right.
there's no question about that. And I don't have any problem acknowledging that because frankly, I think all that stuff is peripheral. When we talk about the film, my leaning is towards the film and the people that looked at the film and how they viewed it and what they came away with after watching it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the meat of the whole story. But yeah.
Right. So first of all, here, just so that there's no fooling around, I think the primary frame of the PGF is frame 352.
352, which is actually 354, if you want to be technical about it.
I don't. So
Okay.
let's call it 352.
352. Then.
Here is frame 352 of the Patterson Gimlin film. We're not it. There it is. This is frame 352 of the PGF. Okay, so that is the primary focal point of the film. All right. So we're going to show you a couple of versions. The first version, as I said, is a little bit longer. It's culled from the original. As I said, you got to remember it's a 16 millimeter film taken by a guy sitting on a horse and actually sitting on the horse and getting off the horse, I think.
Yeah, it looks like he jumped off his horse.
Right. He that's the story, is that he started filming and then jumped off the horse. So and then it goes over to this creature walking, but it's not great, but we wanted to show it to you anyway and give you a taste of what the original looks like. Okay, so Lou, let's show everybody clip one here. Okay, so there you go. And what Pat and I were talking about while we were showing you that thing was, Pat had mentioned that he thought maybe they had gotten it colorized, but I'm pretty sure Kodachrome is color film.
I don't know. I just read that it was colorized. Now, I don't know if there's just an extra step or extra process that they have to do once they go ahead and develop the film to get the color in there. I don't know, but
obviously neither one of us really know what that was talking about. But my understanding is that colorization is a frame by frame process, and I find it hard to believe they'd have gone through that. But more importantly, according to Paul Simon, Kodachrome gives you the nice bright
colors. Of course.
So I'm going to go with the fact that Kodachrome is color film. That's a hill I'm going to die on.
Okay, I'll have to Google it afterwards.
And then it'll be too late.
Yeah,
so that was, as I said, that was the original. As you can see, it was not great, but you did get the gist of what we're looking at. I did tell Pat while you were watching the film, one of the things that I love, and I want to read it again because I want to make sure to get it right, is that when it turns and looks at the camera, as it's walking, somebody asked Roger Patterson what the look on its face was, and Patterson said its facial expression was contempt and disgust. You know how it is when the umpire tells you one more word and you're out of the game? That's the way I felt when it turned and looked at me. And I just thought that was cool. I don't think it means much in the grand scheme. I just thought it was kind of nice.
And he had reason to be. It was Roger Patterson.
Wow.
So
I was going to say I've had many umpires look at me that way, and I know that.
That's true.
I know that feeling well.
Yeah.
So there you have it. But now we're going to show you another version. I got to thank Pat for this because I dug and I never found the stabilized version. All I found was the original. But we're going to show you now a much clearer version of the same film, stabilized.
Yeah, a stabilized version. There may be a few seconds missing in the beginning, but it's most of the film that you want to see.
All right. Okay. So let's see that, Lou. It was a lot shorter than I remember it being.
I mean, it's the basic.
Yeah, no, it's the thrust though.
There's a little bit before and a little bit afterwards, but that's the part that you really want to see.
it's the thrust, right? So we've talked about the guys primarily. We've talked about Roger Patterson, and we've talked about the doubts about his character, right?
Yeah.
No?
Doubts? Yeah, sure. No, there's facts about his character, but yeah.
I mean, questions about his character. How's that? And Bob Gimlin, who, as I said, once it got right down to it, was kind of a bit player. He did some interviews as he neared the end of his life. But for the most part, he was quiet throughout all this. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, his wife at one point sue Patterson because she felt like he was making all kinds of money, and Patterson was like, I got news for you. I'm not making it.
Yeah, he said he had tried to get it out of water from a stone. So
not making
blood
it
from a stone.
So I'm not really sure what it is you're looking for.
Gimlin forever. Yeah, up until I think the 90s anyway. He didn't want to have anything to do with it because he was just. His wife she worked at the local bank in town, and they always came in and talked about the film and how it was a fake, and he was the same way. They're always saying, hey, that's fake film. They would actually drive into his driveway and say, hey, Bob, let's see that film. So yeah, he was pestered ever since it came out.
Sure. So he was quiet. He kind of stayed in the background. It was definitely Roger Patterson who was the driver.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
No question about it. So let's talk about the movie. Okay.
Sure.
and you know, we can do it however you want. I kind of thought we'd talk about the people who say it's fake first. You want to talk about Hieronymus, I assume.
Yeah, he's definitely a main player of the whole thing, the film.
And Philip Morris.
Philip Morris, yes.
Is another guy.
Yes, I mean, yeah, he's well, he claims to be one of the characters. There's nothing to say that he was, but just word of mouth. So, yeah. Okay,
so the guy, one of the guys we're talking about is a guy by the name of Bob Hieronymus, and there's no denying that he knew Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin, but he knew Roger Patterson. He, as we said, when Patterson made his or tried to market this fake documentary, and you know what? It's important that we didn't do it before, but I want to make this distinction now. He wasn't marketing that thing as real.
No.
Right? That was not some kind of fake thing. He was marketing that as that was a fake. That was a thing. It was a film about him, Patterson, being this old cowboy, and some other cowboys being led by this Indian guide who was really Bob Gimlin in a wig, out on a Bigfoot expedition. And at the end, lo and behold, they find Bigfoot, which was in reality Bob Hieronymus in a suit.
Yeah, that was the whole gist of the film. Yeah. I don't even know if they finished the film.
No, I don't think they ever did. No, I don't think they ever did. But the point is, years. So the film, all this stuff starts in 1967, right? Bob Hieronymus was at 1996. Bob Hieronymus raised his hand and said, "Hey, oh, by the way, I'm the guy in the suit."
Correct. Yeah.
Right. And he had immediate credibility, because at one point, years and years earlier, 1965, I want to say, he was the guy in the suit. Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's what he claims.
So the problem I have there, and I guess maybe before we do that, we should talk about Greg Long, because Greg Long is an author who is far and away the most critical guy in terms of the film, in terms of authors, and I don't think it's a coincidence that he's the one that found Hieronymus. He's also the one that found Philip Morris.
Yeah, he definitely did some investigative journalism about the whole incident.
You could call it that, I suppose.
I am calling it.
So I guess before we get, because we're going to get back to Hieronymus, but Philip Morris now is a guy who owned a company called Morris Costumes. I believe.
Yeah, that's what he did. He made these costumes.
At some point, I'm going to say much later, 2000, 2002, Philip Morris came out and said, "Hey, in case anybody's interested, I sold this suit to Roger Patterson." Now, there are a couple of problems here, and of course, Greg Long wrote extensively about. So here it is. We've got now the guy that made and sold the suit,
right?
And we've got the guy that wore the suit. There it is.
Correct. Yeah.
But there are a whole bunch of problems there, and you have to acknowledge that there are a whole ton of problems there.
I mean, yeah. When it comes down to it, what you're going to talk about is that there's no receipts, right?
Okay.
And there's no communication that we have that's between Roger and himself. So there's nothing there. There's no suit. So we're left with just word of mouth.
But we're also left with Hieronymus and Philip Morris have totally different descriptions of the suits. And you know what I found funny too? And
True, but yeah, I can talk about that. But
what I found funny too was that Bob Hieronymus came out and as I said, he said, oh, by the way, here I am, I was the one. What seems to me, and maybe you can correct me, it seems to me that as soon as people started calling him out, he shut right up, and suddenly it was his brother Howard who was the expert on the whole thing. Because everything else I read beyond that was Howard Hieronymus said this and said that. And I'm not even really sure how he comes into play, other than the fact that, like I said, I think Bob Hieronymus, it seems to me, said, yeah, this isn't going to work the way I thought it was going to. I think I'm just going to shut the hell up. And Howard said, no, it's too late for that.
See, I don't know about that. I just know he came out in the 90s. He did a couple of shows. He gave some interviews and told a story. But I don't know about him having his brother as a spokesperson. But, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about, you said you can talk about the differences in the descriptions. Well, you want to talk about what they are first?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so Howard Hieronymus said the suit was heavy horsehide from a red horse. Mm-hmm. And that it was clearly heavy. It was clearly real horsehide because it really stunk.
Yes.
But Philip Morris said that the suit was made of an odorless and very lightweight fabric,
synthetic, yeah,
called Dynet.
Right. Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Which obviously those are two differences, right?
Yeah.
But I thought it was odd too that Morris said that it was the same suit he sold to all his customers, $435, he said. But if that was the case, I didn't understand why he didn't have one.
Oh, I don't know. I was back in the 60s.
No, I know, but my point is...
But yeah.
So the only other thing I want to say about it is this. Once again, Greg Long. In 2004, he set up near Rimrock Lake, not at the original location, but in Washington State.
Yeah.
He set up a reenactment.
Correct.
National Geographic was going to film it.
Mm-hmm.
And after trying it, I have here for numerous efforts. I'm not sure how long they really went at it. It says here, producer Neil Dockster from National Geographic noted, the suit used in recreation was in no way similar to what was depicted in the Patterson Gimlin film.
Yeah, correct.
And Morris never spoke about it publicly again after that. So, to me, these are all things that...
He's passed away now, so... But yeah, Morris is...
Well, may he
passed.
rest in peace. But,
Yeah.
But I still think he was a liar.
The thing is that, okay, he sent him the suit. He sent Patterson the suit. Now, who's to say that Patterson didn't alter the suit to make it exactly how he wanted it to be? This is a person who is in debt. He had cancer. He had all these people after him. He had to make sure that this was his one and only chance. And he had to make sure that this suit was going to look the best he could make it. And he was definitely a person who could actually craft stuff. He could, carve stuff. He was an excellent artist. So maybe he modified the suit, which is what Bob Hieronymus said, is that he modified the suit to be the Bigfoot that he wanted it to be. Okay.
Because he said he put it on like a T-shirt, put the top on like a T-shirt, and the hands were already attached to it. The bottom part's cinched with a drawstring. But the Morris suit was a one-piece suit, like a coverall with a zipper in the back. So what you're saying is that they got the suit, spent $435 on it, and then Roger Patterson cut it in half.
Maybe. Could be. I mean, yeah, he spent $400 and something on it, but I mean, that's all he had is something on a piece of paper that he might have found at one of the rodeos of that picture of that suit. So once he got it, he said, "This is not going to work. I've got to modify it. I got to make it the best it can be." And so that's what he did.
Because I think Hieronymus said he wore football shoulder pads under it.
Yeah, he said he got football shoulder pads from like the local school.
Yeah.
To beef out the shoulders. I mean, and that's what you see
So
in
he
the
would have had to
film.
lengthen the arms as well then.
Yeah, he said he lengthened the arms by whatever 7-8 inches, just to make it look like it was an ape arms
With dinette.
with dinette. I don't know what he extended it out with. I have no idea.
Well, I'm just saying,
But
if he was going to extend the arms, they
Yeah.
had to have continuity, right? They'd have to be made of the same.
yeah, he well,
If the
Patterson
suit
also
was from Philip Morris, then it was made of this dinette stuff.
Philip also gave him like extra fur, so he might have created
Oh, okay.
parts of
If he gave him
parts that
anything at all.
that he needed. Yeah, I mean that's what the story says. But yeah, he had got extra fur to put on this suit. But apparently he also asked, once he got the suit, he asked him about, because the mask or face didn't work out, and he told him to actually paint up your face dark so it would like match the suit, because he thought the eyes looked too bright, too white.
Okay.
Once you.
All right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's all. I mean, it's all, like you said. It's all hearsay. It's all.
It
it's
is
all
most,
story.
most definitely all
So-
conjecture, and we're going to have to agree to disagree, because I think the differences in the suits just blow those two guys both out of the water. That's just me. And-
Yeah, I
and
mean,
pretty much
it's
everybody else. So.
Okay, it's what you believe.
But let's get down to it, and why, and the primary reasons I think this thing is real. Okay? And that
Shoot.
is a couple of different guys. A guy by the name of Bill Munns, who wrote a great book that's very technical in terms of the film and processing and things of that nature. Sadly, the book is called When Roger Met Patty. And I wish he had called it something else, because that makes it seem a little sillier than it really is.
Yeah.
But he and another guy by the name of Dan Perez, who is not our Dan Perez, from episode 6, maybe, of Greater Boston Paranormal TV.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
But another author and researcher named Dan Perez. These guys looked extensively at the PGF, and they brought it to a lot of different people. And to me, these are the things that seal the deal for me.
Okay.
You know, one of the places they brought it was a laboratory at Stanford University, which wouldn't have even imagined existed. A laboratory that studies the human gait.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after researching this film, the 3 people that run that lab, one of them said it was inconclusive, but the other 2 said there was absolutely no way on earth that was a human gait.
Mm-hmm. That's what I've heard. Yeah.
So the other thing is that those guys brought, and I have the guys' names, a guy by the name of Dale Sheets, who's he's the head of documentary filmmaking at Universal Studios. Munns brought the film to him, and he watched it. I'm going to say this was in 1972. And again, these are quotes. I just want to make sure I get them right. He said, "We could try faking it, but we'd have to create a completely new system of artificial muscles and find an actor who could be trained to walk like that. It might be done, but we'd have to say that it would be almost impossible." And then it was brought to Disney Studios in '69 and again in '72.
Yep. Disney.
A guy by the name of Ken Peterson was the executive at Disney, and
Right.
and then the chief of animation and 4 assistants looked at it in '72, and the chief of animation called it a truly beautiful piece of work. And when Dan Perez told them it had been shot in the woods of Northern California in 1967, he said that is absolutely not possible.
Okay. So, you've got what was the distance between Roger and Patty?
I don't know.
The Bigfoot. It was quite a distance. I mean, if you look at the pictures, if you look at the film, it was quite a distance, and the film itself was grainy. So you've got the distance, and it's back in 1967, and the film's grainy. So, when we go ahead and like magnify stuff that's grainy, sometimes you can see stuff that actually isn't there. It's like we have in paranormal, and we're looking at spirit pictures. Like, you look at it and it's out of focus, grainy, and it's pareidoia. It's something that your mind wants to see something. It wants to make a certain thing. It wants to make a face. So, I mean, there's that.
Okay. I mean, I guess it seems to me that when a guy who's like the head of animation at Disney Studio looks at a video, he knows all those things that you just said. And what he's looking at is the suit.
Yeah.
And he's looking at a combo platter of the suit and the movement. And basically what he said was, I think where he was coming from was that we could make a suit that looked like that easily, or we could make a suit that allowed a guy wearing it to move like that. But we can't make a suit that looks like that and would allow the guy wearing it to move like that.
Yeah, I mean, they're experts in everything, but that's not to say that somebody, maybe Roger Patterson, could have done something like that.
In 1967,
I don't know, but
when Disney couldn't do it in 1972.
Okay, let's go back to the pyramids.
Oh, Pat.
Can anybody today like figure out how they made it thousands of years ago? They're still stumped today. So that doesn't mean that they didn't do it back then, that somebody didn't figure it out. So, you know what I mean? And that was thousands of years ago. So I'm just saying.
I know what you mean, all right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, believe me, I know what you mean. You mean you're desperately trying to make a point.
That's not desperate. I mean, it's just that maybe somebody back there
None of this matters.
Okay.
Because we have the ultimate evidence that all your foolishness about not believing in Bigfoot is all
I knew
a
this
lie.
would happen, people.
Lou, Lou,
I knew this would happen.
show it to us.
Can I have security, please?
Show it to us, Lou. There it is.
Oh, yeah.
There is Pat with the man himself. So all he's doing is trying to cover his friend's tracks.
I'm sorry, he's real. Yeah. I got to go back on my word. He's real. You got me. There's the evidence right there.
All right.
So there's one final piece of film that was taken of Bob Hieronymus, of him, I think, walking in front of his stables. And this, for me, it was shocking to see him walk, and then to look back and see Patty walk. And if we could just see that piece of footage, you can determine yourself.
67 with an offer that was too good to pass up.
He wanted a pretty good sized guy, somebody that they could trust to wear this Bigfoot suit. They said, we'll pay you $1,000, and it'll only take about 10 minutes. So I was 26 years old at the time. I jumped on it.
And I think he did jump on it.
All right. On that note, I'm afraid we're running out of time here.
That's too bad.
It is too bad because we've only been talking about it for 100 years. So
keep going on this.
So needless to say, an hour really wasn't enough time. But you've seen the film. There's only about 400,000 web pages about the thing. There's that many podcasts and that many documentaries. It's regardless of where you land, it's a great friggin' story.
I've loved it ever since I seen it on In Search Of. In fact, I just watched it today.
Yeah, there's no question about it. It is a great story.
Yeah.
So that's going to wrap up this episode of Greater Boston Paranormal TV. Thanks for watching. We got a lot of good stuff in the works here. We're back on USS Salem. July 15th is our next public event.
Yes.
www.uss-salem.org for tickets. As always, all proceeds go to the United States Naval Shipbuilding Museum and USS Salem, we're very proud to say. We've got a couple of episodes here in the works. We're going to be doing an interview next week with a very talented woman who has some amazing stories about life coaching and some of the incredible things she's guided people through.
Ooh, maybe I need that one.
Actually, I'm lying to you. Next week we're going to be interviewing Richard Estep, who is a really prolific author, much like Troy Taylor, about the things we do. Although Richard is much more of a hard history-based guy, military history guy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
He's a good friend. He's been on the ship many times, and he's a great guy. So that should be fun. We are doing the interview that we talked about. The other thing we're going to do is on July 10th. While we said from the beginning we weren't going to do any investigators as guests, we did a great event this past weekend on the ship with two very talented guys. And one of the original sci-fi ghost hunters, Dustin Parry, is going to do an interview with us on July 10th. So,
great.
So that should be fun as well.
Yeah, you want to tune in for that one.
Dustin's a great guy and a bit of a nutcake himself. So that should be
He's a good guy. He's funny.
That should be a really good time. That was a great event, and we had a great time with those guys. Hopefully I'll be back on the ship. Hopefully I'll be back on the ship by then.
He tried to get the Bigfoot costume on and it fell down.
Wasn't as easy as Bob Hieronymus said it was going to be. And
that's right.
And that's one of the reasons I think he's full of it.
Okay.
So that's gonna do it for us. Thank you very much again for watching. www.thegbpa.com. USS Salem Paranormal Experience.
Yes.
And Greater Boston Paranormal Associates on Facebook. Greater Boston Paranormal Associates on YouTube. Greater Boston Paranormal TV on YouTube. So please tune in. You can catch us pretty much everywhere, as well as on your local TV station. And if you're watching this at somebody else's house and it's not on in your city or town, you call them and ask them what the heck. Or you call us and I'll badger the hell out of them. and I've done pretty well at getting people to pick it up. So you could give that a try as well, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Pat. What do you got?
Thanks for watching. I want to thank QA-TV for hosting us.
Always great people. Always good to work with.
Yes.
Lou Calcagney, man in the control board, all by his lonesome.
Yeah, man behind the curtain.
All by his lonesome tonight. Thank you very much, Lou. And everybody have a great time. We'll talk soon.
Bye. Okay.